stemming from that scenario brings me another question I got for you, Ty. You just talked about labels. So as you know, being an engineer, being a producer, you know, we do a whole lot of work behind the scenes as far as like, you know, making sure the artist records sound right, you know, going from the singles to the EPs to the albums. And then when everything is said and done, right, we got the necessary evil, I want to say, we got to handle, which is like, you know, the paperwork and who gets what percentages and things of that nature. Now, I can say from my experience and your experience, we went through like a multitude of paperwork on like, you know, getting paid from labels for mixing artists and things like that. But I would say on rare occasions, you might get that paperwork where it's like, you might get like a percentage or whatever off the record or off the album.
It's to the discretion of the artist or the label.
But one of the things that I don't really see as far as like from an engineering standpoint are engineers being offered like any percentage on the album or on the record, things like that. Do you feel, and I know you're a producer as well, but do you feel from an engineering standpoint that they should receive points on the record, on the album?
I mean, this is something that we've been dealing with for a long time, and I think a lot of people really don't understand the importance of an engineer and how important an engineer is, and the role of an engineer today is. And the reason why is because of the transition that engineers had, how quickly that transition happened from analog, where people were actually hiring you because you know how to use a piece of gear.
And they did it.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I hired you because you know how to use the SSLG.
Correct.
I hired you because you know how to use this certain board or this piece of gear.
Yeah, the analog gear,
you know what I mean? And I hired you as a technician, so you will work for hire. And then I'll have a producer come in, I'll have a songwriter come in, I will have musicians come in, and all these people will be about the process. And you were focusing on making sure that you were monitoring this recording and you were capturing things. Fast forward to today.
It's much different.
Very different. Nobody shows up to the studio but you and the artist. You're the one that's giving the feedback in the studio. You're the one that's actually comping the vocals. You're the one that's actually saying, okay, here's the special moments here. Let's add effects processing to this part. You're the one that's saying, okay, let's rearrange this. So
that's a producer.
If you're really talking about it, if we're really talking about it, today's day and age of what we call the producer, the guy who makes the beats, or whatever, is really a composer. And the engineer is really producing the record. Right, in a lot of sense, right?
Because nobody else is there. I didn't even think about that.
Depending on what engineer you have. Yes, he's definitely producing.
But here's the thing. I think, and I truly believe this, those guys who are not doing, I think they're fizzling out. I think the guys who are just pressing record. Because who wants to hire somebody? Because it's like the technology is so much more accessible now. That it's just like, I don't need to sit there and hire somebody to just like monitor my recording.
I need intangibles, right?
So people hire you, Strife, because they're like, yo, he's dope creatively. Like he's gonna bring something.
He's adding something to this.
Exactly. So when people hire me, they're like, yo, they know I'm gonna add some creative to it, right? And if you know that, then I think we need to, as an industry, understand that, hey, the transition of engineering has changed, and the business is actually changed of engineering, and we have to account for that somehow. But you know, obviously, it doesn't benefit or behoove anybody else in the industry, but engineers. So what has to happen is that we have to figure out a way to fight for ourselves. And we have to figure out a way to do it. Because
how do you do that? I mean, is a union something that you possibly?
We've talked about unions.
No, just for engineers.
No, engineering union. We've talked about that, but it's just like, it's very hard in this industry because of the politics. You know what I mean? So when you have, you know, the politics of like, you know, who's done what, who's there, I mean, that really has control over the industry.
Because I've seen it could break down to like just people in the studio, you know, like you could be working on an amazing record and an artist could just have, you know, like another friend there, they're like, oh, you know, say this hook like this, or, you know, switch these lines around, and then 3 months later they put out the record and it's amazing, and they're like, wait a minute, you know that this record became like this because,
100%.
you know, I switched the line. So now they want, you know, pieces.
There's records that I worked on that generated millions of dollars that I got paid maybe $150 for.
I've known.
300
I think there needs to be some sort of
you know?
software, I would say, or somewhere, like, you see how we're evolving with the tech? I think, like, the business of music has to evolve with that, too. So if, like, every time somebody enters a studio session or tracks a studio session, this is for all the builders out there that are developing tech software or apps or different things like that. I think there should be something that makes the artists and whatever involving parties, like, fill it out. It's almost like if you come into a building like a production studio, right?
No, but the problem,
yeah.
the
A lot
problem
of
with
the times
that,
you gotta like sign up a sheet with your ID and show like, yo, I was registered in this room, right?
I don't want to sound too nefarious here, but
Yeah.
the problem with that is that the industry doesn't want transparency like that.
Yeah.
Because there's really, when we're in this industry, let's be honest, a lot of money gets left on the table.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Sound Exchange collected billions of dollars of money that was just left on the table.
Right. Because
Right?
nobody's
And
calling for it.
because
Nobody's calling
people
for it,
don't know
yeah.
what the hell's going on in this
Yeah.
industry. Right? And that money can be invested and tripled and 10 times and 100 times. Right? So, I mean, that's what's happening here. And I don't
You're
think
banking
they want,
off of somebody not paying attention.
they're banking on you not knowing.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then
that's
if
a good
you,
point.
and a whole bunch of people don't know that could be a lot of residuals
money.
coming in.
That's,
You know?
that's a conflict right
So, and I don't want to sound nefarious because there are just as many bad players there are. There are good players as well in the industry.
Yeah.
But you know, I do believe that they don't. The transparencies, it could have been there. Like I can track my Domino's pizza. Why can't I track my royalties?
Right.
I mean,
Fair point. That's very fair point.
That's a bar right there.
Just to wrap it up, you're definitely
oh yeah,
for,
yeah.
like, engineering
See, I didn't even
points.
get a conclusion.
No,
I am for.
You dropped the mic real quick. You just picked it back up.
Yeah, exactly. But I am for engineers definitely getting points, and I think we need to somehow
agree.
make it into law, into copyright law, just like if somebody plays a piano part, right?
Yeah.
That's so we need to fight for that as engineers because we are adding a lot of creative IP nowadays.
Correct.
And if you're hiring somebody, an engineer, and he's not adding creative IP to you, then you need to go
another
find somebody
person.
else
Get
who's
rid
going
of
to
another
add
person.
creative IP to your records.
Don't find nobody else, find him.
These two gentlemen to do a great
I might
job.
be too busy for you, but
I'm not.
Or find him, yes.